In 2026, connection has never been easier, and yet it has never felt more distant. We are surrounded by people, messages, notifications, and voices, yet many of us lie awake at night feeling profoundly unseen. This contradiction raises a quiet but unsettling question. Are our minds actually connected, or are we just exchanging signals? The idea of mental entanglement isn't new, but today, it feels eerily relevant. People report finishing each other's sentences, sensing emotional shifts across distances, and forming instant bonds that feel deeper than logic allows. Is this coincidence, psychology, or something more? Modern neuroscience tells us the brain is not a closed system. It is constantly reading microexpressions, vocal tones, breathing rhythms, and emotional cues. Long before words appear, the nervous system decides whether another person is safe, familiar, or threatening. This means that what we call connection often happens below awareness. You don't think your way into closeness. You feel your way into it. In 2026, as artificial intelligence mimics conversation and algorithms predict behavior, genuine human resonance stands out like a forgotten frequency. Psychologists now describe connection as synchronization. Heart rates align. Brainwaves begin to mirror. Emotional states subtly transfer. When two people are deeply attuned, their inner worlds start to move in parallel. This is not mystical thinking, it's measurable. Studies using EEG scans show that when people truly listen to one another, their neural patterns begin to match. In that moment, separation feels thinner. You don't just hear the other person, you receive them. Yet we often confuse proximity with intimacy. Scrolling beside someone is not the same as being present with them. True connection requires vulnerability, attention, and emotional risk. 3 things modern life actively discourages. The more distracted we become, the harder it is for minds to align. And so, many people feel lonely not because they lack relationships, but because their relationships lack depth. This is why the idea of mental entanglement matters now, not as science fiction, but as a metaphor for what we've lost. The ability to tune in, to feel without filtering, to allow another person to occupy our inner space without fear. Perhaps our minds were always capable of this. Perhaps 2026 is simply forcing us to remember. Because the real question isn't whether our minds are entangled. It's whether we're brave enough to let them be. Every human emotion carries a frequency, not metaphorically, but biologically. Fear tightens the nervous system. Joy expands it. Calm slows the breath. Anxiety accelerates the heart. When two people share space, these internal rhythms interact whether they intend to or not. This is emotional contagion, and it forms the foundation of what many experience as instant connection. You don't fall into alignment through logic. You resonate. In 2026, researchers are paying closer attention to how emotional states synchronize in close relationships. Couples, close friends, even therapist and client pairs often show matched physiological patterns over time. Breathing cycles align. Cortisol levels rise and fall together. This suggests that connection isn't built only through shared experiences, but through shared internal states. When someone truly understands you, their body responds as if the experience were their own. This is why some people feel draining while others feel grounding. It's not personality, it's regulation. A regulated nervous system calms others. A dysregulated one spreads tension. True connection happens when two systems can co-regulate, creating a shared sense of safety. In that space, defenses drop, authenticity emerges, and suddenly, conversation feels effortless. Social media, however, disrupts this process. Text removes tone. Emojis replace nuance. Video compresses presence into pixels. While these tools simulate closeness, they rarely allow for true emotional alignment. You may exchange words without ever syncing emotionally. This explains why many people feel exhausted after constant interaction, yet still crave connection. They are communicating, but not resonating. Entanglement, then, is not telepathy. It's attunement. It's the subtle, often unconscious alignment of emotional frequencies between two people who are paying attention. When attention is divided, entanglement weakens. When presence deepens, it strengthens. This also explains why silence can feel intimate with the right person. No words are needed because regulation is already shared. You feel understood without explanation. Your nervous system recognizes familiarity, even if logic can't explain why. In a world moving faster each year, the ability to slow down emotionally becomes a radical act. True connection in 2026 isn't about finding more people. It's about finding alignment, about noticing who your system relaxes around, who allows you to breathe differently. Because when two emotional frequencies align, the connection feels timeless. And timelessness is something technology can never replicate. Hidden deep within the brain is a network that makes connection possible before conscious thought begins. These are mirror neurons, cells that fire not only when you perform an action, but when you observe someone else performing it. When you see someone smile, your brain partially smiles with them. When you witness pain, your nervous system echoes it. This is not imagination. It's biology. Mirror neurons are the reason empathy feels physical. They allow us to simulate another person's inner world without words. In moments of deep connection, this system becomes highly active. You don't just understand the other person. You experience a version of their reality inside your own mind. This is the closest science comes to explaining mental entanglement. In 2026, studies show that people who feel chronically disconnected often have mirror systems dulled by overstimulation, endless scrolling, rapid content consumption, and emotional overload reduce the brain's sensitivity. When everything demands attention, nothing truly lands. As a result, empathy becomes shallow and connection feels forced. True connection requires stillness, eye contact, timing. The brain needs space to mirror accurately. This is why deep conversations feel rare but transformative. They reactivate neural pathways designed for bonding. In these moments, defenses soften and authenticity surfaces naturally. This also explains why some connections feel immediate. When two people have compatible emotional rhythms, their mirror systems lock in quickly. It feels like recognition rather than discovery, as if you've met before, even if you haven't. The brain loves familiarity, not because it's predictable, but because it's safe. However, mirroring can also create illusion. We sometimes confuse projection for connection. We see ourselves reflected in another person and mistake that familiarity for intimacy. True entanglement requires reciprocity. Both minds must be open. Both nervous systems must be engaged. In 2026, as AI becomes more emotionally convincing, the distinction matters. Machines can mimic responses, but they do not mirror internally. They simulate empathy without experiencing it. The human brain knows the difference, even if consciously we struggle to articulate it. This is why real connection feels alive, unscripted, slightly unpredictable. You are not interacting with a reflection. You are encountering another consciousness. And in that encounter, your own mind changes subtly. Perhaps entanglement is not mystical at all. Perhaps it's the brain remembering what it was designed to do. Not all minds entangle easily. For some, connection feels dangerous. This isn't a flaw. It's a survival strategy. Early experiences shape how the nervous system approaches closeness. Attachment patterns formed in childhood determine whether connection feels safe, overwhelming, or unreliable. In 2026, psychology increasingly recognizes that many people aren't disconnected, they're protected. Trauma teaches the brain to stay alert, to scan for threat, to limit vulnerability. When someone with unresolved trauma enters a relationship, their system may resist synchronization. Emotional closeness can trigger old fears, even when the present moment is safe. As a result, entanglement feels intrusive rather than comforting. This is why some people crave connection, but sabotage it unconsciously. Their mind wants closeness. Their nervous system wants distance. The conflict creates confusion, push-pull dynamics, and emotional exhaustion. True connection requires not just compatibility, but regulation. Healing changes this. When trauma is processed, the nervous system learns that presence does not equal danger. Slowly, the capacity for entanglement returns. Eye contact becomes tolerable. Silence becomes safe. Emotional resonance no longer feels like loss of control. Interestingly, trauma can also intensify selective connection. Some individuals feel deeply bonded to very few people while remaining distant from most. Their system chooses quality over quantity. When entanglement occurs, it is profound, but rare. In 2026, this selective depth is often misunderstood. Society rewards sociability, not attunement. But real connection doesn't follow social metrics. It follows nervous system compatibility. Two people may share values, interests, and goals, and still fail to connect emotionally. Others may share little in common, yet feel instantly aligned. Understanding this shifts the question from, why don't I connect easily, to what does my system need to feel safe connecting? The answer is rarely external. It's internal regulation, boundaries, and self-trust. True entanglement is not losing yourself. It's staying present while allowing another person to exist fully in your awareness. That requires strength, not surrender. And perhaps that is the real secret of connection in 2026. Healing yourself enough to let someone meet you where you truly are. We live in an era of constant contact, but minimal presence. Messages arrive instantly, yet emotional understanding lags behind. In 2026, people often confuse availability with intimacy. You can reply quickly and still remain emotionally distant. You can video call daily and never truly sync. Neural presence requires more than access. It requires attention. The brain detects when someone is fully there. Multitasking fractures resonance. When attention is split, emotional signals weaken. This is why conversations feel hollow when one person is scrolling, even if they're technically listening. Digital communication compresses complexity. Tone flattens. Timing shifts. Emotional nuance is lost. While technology connects minds informationally, it rarely connects them neurologically. True entanglement needs shared timing, pauses, breaths, microreactions. These are difficult to transmit through screens. Yet this doesn't mean digital connection is meaningless. It means it has limits. Deep bonds can begin online, but they solidify through embodied interaction. The nervous system needs physical cues to fully relax. This is biology, not preference. In 2026, many people feel emotionally fatigued without knowing why. They are interacting constantly, but rarely co-regulating. Their nervous systems remain in low-grade alert. Without moments of true presence, emotional exhaustion builds. The solution is not disconnection from technology, but intentional use. Slower conversations, undivided attention, fewer interactions with more depth. When presence returns, so does resonance. True connection is not about being reachable. It's about being available. Internally, connection deepens when meaning is shared. Not opinions, not interests, but interpretation. When two people see the world through a similar emotional lens, their minds align more easily. They don't just experience events together. They understand them similarly. In 2026, polarization fractures shared meaning. People consume different realities, shaped by algorithms. This makes entanglement harder. Without common ground, resonance struggles to form. Yet when shared meaning does exist, connection feels effortless. Shared meaning doesn't require agreement on everything. It requires mutual curiosity, a willingness to enter another person's perspective without immediately defending your own. This openness allows neural alignment. The brain relaxes when it feels understood, not judged. This is why storytelling creates connection. Stories synchronize emotional response. They invite the listener into the teller's inner world. When meaning is shared, distance collapses. True connection is not about sameness. It's about understanding difference without fear. Not all entanglement is romantic. Friendship often provides the safest space for deep neural alignment. Without the pressure of desire, minds can synchronize gently. Trust builds organically. Emotional resonance feels stable. Romantic connection, however, amplifies entanglement. Love activates attachment systems, heightening sensitivity. This can create profound intimacy or intense dysregulation. In 2026, conscious relationships focus on regulation, not intensity. Healthy entanglement enhances individuality. Unhealthy entanglement erases it. The difference lies in boundaries. When two regulated minds connect, they expand. When dysregulated minds merge, they collapse. True love allows space without disconnection. True friendship allows closeness without obligation. People often report sensing loved ones from afar, thinking of them moments before they call, feeling their emotional state without contact. While science explains much through pattern recognition and memory, some experiences resist easy explanation. The brain is predictive. It anticipates based on familiarity. When deeply attuned, subtle cues accumulate over time. This creates the illusion of distance-defying connection. Whether mystical or neurological, the experience feels real. Perhaps entanglement is not about distance. Perhaps it's about familiarity deep enough to predict. When connection lacks depth, loneliness increases. The brain interprets shallow interaction as rejection. Over time, this erodes trust. People withdraw not because they don't want connection, but because they're tired of unmet resonance. In 2026, the antidote is intentional depth. Fewer connections, greater presence, emotional honesty without performance. True connection is not efficient. It is slow, imperfect, and profoundly human. The secret is not entanglement itself. It is availability. When you regulate your nervous system, clarify your boundaries, and offer presence without expectation, connection emerges naturally. Minds don't force alignment, they allow it. In a world of noise, true connection is quiet. In a world of speed, it is slow. And in 2026, it is the rarest form of wealth. If this made you feel something, you're not alone. Subscribe to the Pulsora Psyche, where we explore the unseen forces shaping your inner world.